Yes, I'll admit that I'm a fool for you, because
now this Greystone Chapel here at Folsom.
He was just another number behind bars, forgotten, alone, and shackled by the choices that destroyed everything he loved. But one song, scrawled on prison paper in a dark cell, would echo through a microphone in front of a live audience of inmates, not by him, but by Johnny Cash. And as the first chord rang out, one inmate gasped and stood frozen, because that was his song, his story, and now the world was listening. This is the story of Glen Sherley, the man who lost it all, found a second chance through music, and watched it all burn again. But not before writing one of the rawest, most powerful country songs ever sung in a jail cell. If you thought Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison concert was legendary, wait until you hear what happened backstage and how it was never supposed to include Glen Sherley's name. We're about to take you inside the prison walls, inside a broken man's mind, and into the final moments of a redemptive tragedy that feels like it was ripped from a country ballad. So subscribe to RetroWaves, where true music stories aren't just told, they're felt. Because this isn't just about a song, it's about a soul that was almost saved. Glen Sherley was born in 1936 in Oklahoma, but his family soon moved west to California, searching for opportunity like many Dust Bowl survivors. But what they found wasn't much better. Long hours, hard labor, and poverty that wore on every part of life. Glen dropped out of school early. He worked on farms, hauled freight, labored for wages that never seemed to stretch far enough. And like too many young men trapped in cycles of desperation, Glen started making bad choices. Petty theft turned into burglary. Burglary turned into armed robbery. By his early 30s, he'd already spent time in Tracy Prison and then landed in Folsom State Prison, one of the most notorious correctional facilities in the country. By then he had a family, including a son, but they were distant. Sherley's world had shrunk to cold concrete and razor wire. What happens to a man when he's caged too long? Some snap, some go numb. But Glen, he wrote, not just poetry or letters, but songs, gritty, soul-wrenching songs, rooted in country, gospel, and sorrow. Inmates said Glen would sit for hours with a guitar or notebook, hunched over, lost in melody. His lyrics weren't polished, but they were raw, honest, real. He wrote of brokenness, of judgment, of God, and of hope, faint and flickering like a candle against the dark prison walls. One night, Glen poured everything he had into a single song, a tribute to the prison's tiny chapel, made of gray stone and surrounded by despair. He called it Greystone Chapel.
Now this Greystone Chapel here at Folsom.
To Glen, that chapel symbolized something different. The last place a man might go to make peace with himself. He recorded a basic demo inside the prison using makeshift equipment. No engineers, no labels, just a cassette passed hand to hand. Then, fate intervened. A prison chaplain named Charles Edward Dodson believed the song was special. He handed it to Johnny Cash's team the night before their performance in January 1968, the now iconic Folsom Prison concert. Cash listened to it in his hotel room. He stayed up learning it, and on stage the next day, as the show neared its close, he paused and addressed the crowd.
Thank you very much. This next song was written by a man right here in Folsom Prison.
Then he sang it.
There's a Greystone Chapel here at Folsom.
And Glen Sherley, still in chains, watched his words come to life through the voice of Johnny Cash. Cash didn't stop at singing Glen's song. He was moved, haunted. He wanted to help the man behind the lyrics. Cash spoke publicly about Glen's potential. Behind the scenes, he worked with prison officials, lobbied parole boards, and urged the music community to give this unknown songwriter a second chance. In 1971, Glen Sherley walked out of prison, free, and suddenly, famous. Johnny Cash brought him on the road, introduced him to producers, helped him land a recording contract. Shirley performed in churches, in prisons, and even alongside Cash at concerts. He recorded Live at Vacaville, an album filled with songs about pain, salvation, and survival. For a moment, Glen Sherley was a symbol of something rare, a man redeemed through music. But what the world saw wasn't the whole story. Outside prison, Glen felt disoriented. He struggled with anxiety. He didn't trust people. He didn't trust fame. He turned to amphetamines. He started spiraling. He grew paranoid. And tensions rose with Cash's band and crew. Cash, heartbroken, slowly began to distance himself. He didn't want to abandon Glen, but Glen was becoming a danger to others and to himself. Eventually, Glen disappeared from the spotlight. The invitation stopped. The record deals dried up. He was alone again. In the late 1970s, Glen took a job working at a cattle ranch near Salinas. No stage, no studio, just dirt and animals. He kept to himself. He tried to stay clean. But in 1978, everything unraveled. A foreman accused him of making threats. Glen, already on the edge, saw his world collapse. To him, it meant failure. It meant everything Johnny Cash had done for him. The music, the parole, the second chance, was wasted. On May 11, 1978, Glen drove to a trailer, sat alone, and ended his life with a gunshot to the head. He was just 42 years old. When Johnny Cash was later asked about Glen, his voice cracked. He called Shirley a man of tremendous promise, but one haunted by inner turmoil that I could never quite reach. Cash admitted he blamed himself, at least partly, for lifting Glen too high, too fast. But he also said this: Glen had a gift, a powerful gift, and for a moment, he shared it with the world. Glen Sherley's name isn't carved into the walls of country music's Hall of Fame. You won't see tributes to him on the Grammys. He never had a hit single. He never got the applause he deserved. But there is one place where his name still echoes. In the final minutes of the Folsom Prison concert album, when Cash sings Greystone Chapel, you can feel it.
But my Lord has set my soul free.
The pain, the power, the presence of a man who believed, for one brief moment, that he could be more than his worst mistake. That recording became one of the most iconic moments in live music history. And Glen Sherley was its hidden author. Not every comeback story ends in applause. Some end in silence. But Glen Sherley's voice, the one he found in a prison cell, still echoes. His story is not about stardom. It's about the fragile, flickering hope that lives inside every broken man. The kind of hope that takes shape in music and sometimes dies in the silence after the song. If you felt something from this story, if you believe broken people can create beautiful things, then hit that subscribe button for RetroWaves, because we remember the voices the world tried to forget, and we'll keep singing their songs, even when no one else will.